of business, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I hear a motion for approval? Do I hear a second? Okay, we have two items on our agenda today. The first one is we have some very special guests from the city of Akron to talk about a very special event that will happen this Friday. So go ahead, who would like to be first?
I would. Yeah, I'll start with the proclamation. Okay. I'm going to go through the first few lines, and then Pat and Heather will pick up where I leave off. But whereas the city of Akron celebrates on June 21st of this year as the Cuyahoga River Homecoming Day, this is in celebration of 50 years of environmental progress since the historic fire on June 22nd of '69. In '69, the river caught fire in Cleveland and marked a major turning point for the river. The blaze sparked local and national awareness that inspired the formation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in 1970. And then 2 years later, the Clean Water Act was signed into law. The once declared dead Cuyahoga River now boasts more than 60 different species of fish, freshwater mussels, and supporting macroinvertebrate communities. Whereas the city of Akron, through financial sacrifices of the residential ratepayers, has spent and continues to spend over $1 billion to significantly improve and continue to improve the water quality of the Cuyahoga River that supports diverse aquatic communities, increased recreational activity such as the Cuyahoga River Water Trail, higher quality of life, and support of economic development activities. And whereas the dedication and passion of the city of Akron's professional operators, technicians, engineers, managers, and staff were instrumental in the Cuyahoga River renewal by investing time, talent, and expertise in Akron's water infrastructure and optimizing the operation and maintenance of the system. And whereas the renewed Cuyahoga River makes our community and our region more vibrant, a vibrant community attracts new residences, and new businesses.
Thanks.
The Cuyahoga River Homecoming is going to take place at the Cascade Valley Metro Park on June 21st, and it will include an Enviro party with hands-on activities for kids, including river sampling, exhibits, guided hikes, kayak demonstrations, tree and rainbow giveaways, and it will also have the Akron Torch Fest, which is part of a larger regional effort.
Do you want to explain the Torch Fest a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So first and foremost...
Excuse me, Heather, turn on your microphone. No, just the, okay. There you go.
Thank you. We have invited all of the local community center camps to come to the event that day, and we're going to be providing busing for them. We'll also have busing at several of the community centers to make this a more accessible event for all Akron residents. All areas and sections of Akron will have transportation to and from the event. This Extinguished Torch Fest is part of the larger regional effort to bring awareness to the clean water that has happened in the region due to everybody in the region's work, and they will be coordinating through many communities for that. The events will start on Wednesday. Where are they starting, Pat?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll do a description on the Torch Fest.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I do want to mention, and Heather mentioned the number of students. Since it is a Friday this year, this is actually taking the place of our, what we call the Blue Heron Open House. So it'll be taking the place of that. We're doing a little later to coincide with the celebration of the river, of the environmental progress since the fire. And what we really want to do is increase the awareness of the City of Akron residents of the river, of the improvements to the river, so that the City of Akron residents can really start taking advantage and fully utilizing the river and enjoying that resource that's there now. The Torch Fest, as Heather mentioned, it does start Wednesday up in Geauga County in the headwaters, and that'd be June 19th, and it starts out with a Native American blessing, and there'll actually be a water walker that's going to walk the entire 100 miles starting from Geauga County. Thursday it moves down into Kent for Thursday night. Starting at 4 o'clock, they're going to have a big festival downtown, and they'll actually be paddling down the river, probably very quickly, depending on the river flows as it is right now. But they'll paddle down through Kent on Thursday, and then Friday they come into Cuyahoga Falls. We'll start out in the morning, and they've got 2 celebrations in Cuyahoga Falls in the afternoon and also then in the evening down in their riverfront area. And then we have our event, which kicks off at 10 o'clock in the morning, goes till 3. But we will have a specific torch fest or torch celebration starting at noon, from noon to 1. And we'd invite all of you to come down there. We will have people there from the National Park, from Summit Metro Parks, from ODNR. A lot of our partners will be there, and they actually have a beautiful torch that they'll bring in on a kayak. They'll bring it onto the stage for, you know, some photo ops and a little dedication, and then they'll take it back down into the river and paddle on up, then goes to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park following our event. Then on Saturday, it really kicks off in downtown Cleveland with a huge event, and I'll refer you to the Cuyahoga50.org website to see all the activities going on down there. But they've got what they call a paddle fest and the river fest and the river rally convention, and there's just a tremendous number of activities going on up in Cleveland, and I'm sure you'll see it all in the Cleveland media all weekend, along with a lot of national media attention. So our little piece of this whole week then is that Friday afternoon when the Torch Fest comes through as part of our homecoming.
And we have more than 30 exhibitors coming to the event, and they'll be doing hands-on activity for adults and children. We've got free lunches, we always do, and of course the free trees and rain barrels for people who are Akron residents. So we just would really love the support. If you guys could even just let your constituents know, we just want to make sure that everybody's aware that this is part of the positive side of all of this sacrifice that many people have made in helping us improve the water quality.
Yeah, and I believe most of us here at the table were here in 1969 and remember what the Dead River, well, some of us, not all of us, but some of us were here, and remember what the Dead River was really like. And it really is a tremendous accomplishment to get to where it is today, being able to support life as it does and meet or exceed the requirements, the water quality requirements. And then one of the whereases there, it's very intentional that we mention the City of Akron professional operators, because the operators down at the wastewater plant, the water reclamation facility, do a phenomenal job. The guys out in water, in sewer maintenance, do a tremendous job. And this also includes the watershed people up in the watershed, because it's the whole Cuyahoga River. But it's through their efforts that all this has been made possible over the last years, the last couple decades, to get this improvement. And they are really the ones that deserve all the accolades for the improvement of the river.
And in case you guys didn't know, the Cuyahoga River was actually named the River of the Year this year by the American Rivers. So that's a huge accomplishment on this 50th anniversary.
And if you can't come out for the whole day Friday, we do have some VIP passes. We'll make sure we get to you. So we really would love to have you there at noon, but we'd love to have you there in the morning too, to see all the kids and see all the activities. So please, if you can make it out, it's going to be a beautiful day.
And we could tell our residents that if they attend, they could get a free rain barrel. Correct?
Yeah, we've got
council people.
part of our tree 2-for-1. So for every tree we take out on a CSO project, we replace it with 2. And this year we've got how many rain barrels available?
300.
300 rain barrels. We'll be giving out certificates, so you don't have to take it home that day. You can go pick it up later.
Yeah,
But
well-
yes, we have the rain barrel program in the morning then.
And we're working with a local nursery this year for that, so that should help spur some business for them as well, because as people go to pick up their rain barrels and trees, they may need some soil to help plant that tree. And so that was one of our goals this year as well, is to continue the economic progress through this program.
And just one final note, if you do come down Friday, there is a lot of construction on Cuyahoga Street. The river, why it got to where it is today is because of projects like the one we're doing on Cuyahoga Street. So we're actually celebrating the construction. It's not a nuisance, it's how we get to where we are today.
Not a nuisance.
And it shows Akron's continued commitment to continuing to improve the river. So please, I know the construction is a pain in the neck, but sometimes it gets messy to clean up a river.
Right. Okay, any other comments on this? It's a great example of collaboration with local partners, with regional partners. It's a great educational outreach program. We're not just sitting behind a desk waiting for people to come to us. We're going out in the community and we're recruiting them, making them more able to attend. So this is a fantastic job, everybody. Any comments or questions from committee members? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to comment on the rain barrels, and I know that Heather was out to our ward meeting and offered rain barrels to everyone there, and we gave out a number of them, and I got one. And I'll tell you what, I love that rain barrel. You know, putting that and connecting it up to my downspout, and the water off of the one part of my roof, if we get a half-inch of rain, I get 55 gallons of water. And it's amazing how much water, and I was surprised at how quickly that filled up, and, you know, and if it doesn't rain, how quickly you can use it too. But yeah, very nice. I love that program, and you know, I'd like to see a lot more rain barrels out there, because you know, if I could put one on every corner of the house, I'd be you know, doing really well. But I really appreciate that program, and thank you for continuing it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other members of the committee have questions or comments? Other council members? Okay.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, guys, really. Come back sometime and tell us how much money we're saving with all the green infrastructure you've implemented.
Thank you.
Okay. That's a great success story. And now let's turn to a serious matter, kind of really imposed on us by the state. And I'd like to have Ellen Landers, and I don't know, Brian, are you here on this also? Mr. Angelini? No? No, sir. Okay. Okay. So some of you saw in the paper today, there is a House Bill 242, which again continues this drumbeat of bad news from the State House in terms of local control of our own affairs. And I'm just going to ask Ellen to explain a little bit about what the bill would do, how it would affect us, and I know she's been talking to people in Columbus about the latest with what's going on with this bill.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yes, House Bill 242 was introduced by, had a decent number of co-sponsors in Columbus, I want to say about a month ago. Essentially, it would do two things. It would prohibit local communities from banning the use of plastic containers, so they call them auxiliary containers, which is to-go bags, plastic utensils, things like that. And it would also prohibit cities from placing any tax or fee on those bags. Cuyahoga County considered both a fee on plastic bags and a ban, and they just a couple weeks ago passed a ban on plastic bags. Since that time, this bill has kind of fast-tracked, so it's had 3 hearings in a month, which is a pretty decent clip for things in the General Assembly. My understanding is it could get a 4th hearing this week or next. If it does, they may, the House may vote on it before they go on recess in July. It's unlikely to get to the Senate in that time, so probably we're looking at the fall for when this bill would be enacted, but they do believe that it's going to pass, and that the General Assembly will be looking to preempt local control on this issue.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee or comments? Mr. Hoke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to look at this or see what, and I know that we do have a problem, you know, with plastic bags, plastic cups, plastic straws, plastic pretty much everything. Doing away with plastic bags, it's not going to do away with the problem. We're still going to have problems. I think, you know, putting a ban on something doesn't really take care of a problem. You know, we have other things and other items there. So I think rather than just ban them, I think we ought to have something that figures out a way to deal with them in a way that we can still utilize them, but they don't still create or have as big of a problem. And how big is the problem? Do we know exactly how big the problem is? Are there studies? Are there facts? Is there anything there that you know, could bring that to us? Because you know, I think, the resolution is basically looking at the resolution, and I'm looking at the second paragraph there, whereas Section 3 of Article 18 of the Ohio Constitution grants the power of local self-government to municipal operations in Ohio, including the right to determine local rules for issues of local concern. This isn't just local concern. This is state, federal, and if not, it's a world concern. And I don't think that, by Akron, Ohio banning plastic bags is going to take care of a problem that that the world is looking at. And is it going to, better our community? And if it betters our community, in what way is it going to better our community? I think that the cost of goods will increase by doing away with plastic bags. I worked in a grocery store for over 37 years, and I know, because I know what plastic bags brought to our industry, and what effect it had on our industry. Because when I started bagging groceries, when I first started at Acme, that's all we had was paper bags, and the only thing that we still had other plastic bags, because we had plastic bags in produce, and we had plastic bags for frozen items that we put inside the paper bags. So, banning all of the paper bags and taking them out of there, are we going to do away with all of those also? The ones that protect the food as it's coming home, and getting the frozen items home relatively still frozen by the time you get them home, protecting the vegetables and fruits and everything from putting them in bags with other items that people buy at grocery stores that could be contaminating in a sense, and keeping them separated. So I think also with the increased cost on all of this, we keep talking about how we can help our low-income population. And this is not going to help the low-income population, because it's going to increase the cost of goods. So basically, I think, we're looking at a situation and a problem that right now we have no business, in, and I think we need to stay away from it. I think we need to talk to, our retailers and the people that own businesses. I have a call in to the Albrechts, and I want to see what their thoughts are on here. Like I said, I worked for them for over 37 years, and they employ a high number of people in the community, and they supply groceries, and they do business with our residents. And what effect will this have on their company, and what effect will it have on what they can do with their company, with their employees, and with the residents, and with the community? So I'm against this resolution, and I will not vote in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just to be clear, this is a resolution opposing a state bill. It is not an ordinance that would go into effect in the city of Akron. So just making sure we understand that when we're talking about this. I have more to say in response, but I'm going to let some of my colleagues talk first. Yeah.
Thank you. That was the issue I was going to bring up. I respect what my colleague here from Ward 6 says, but this is about...
Bruce, you want to talk into the microphone?
This is not about a ban. We haven't got to that point yet. It's about home rule, whether or not the state should preclude us from doing it if we chose to do that. Now, recycling, they don't even want to take plastic bags anymore. We're recycling them, I did anyways. Now all of a sudden they said it clogs up their equipment. So I think we probably maybe should know, if we do go into trying to ban them, we should answer all the questions my colleague from Ward 6 brings up, and get some comparisons about what the cost would be if we went to paper compared to plastic. I'm sure plastic is a lot cheaper. That's why they want to do it, but it has the downside. And I'd like to know, how long does a plastic bag take to degrade once it's thrown? 1,000 years or something like that? I don't even know. I mean, it's like it's there forever. And but anyways, I think it is a serious problem, and if we do decide to entertain a ban here, I think we should have the right to do that, and that's what this ordinance would do. It's a serious problem, and I wish there was some kind of national legislation, but I don't see that happening. So I guess it would have to start at the grassroots efforts to do things like this, and it brings attention to it, even if we don't pass it. Just by talking about it, it brings attention to it. I know a lot of grocery stores still offer you either plastic or paper, and they encourage people to bring their own bags too, which is good. So just talking about it brings attention to this problem and probably does some good.
Thank you, Mr. Kilby. Other members of the committee like to, Mr. Kamer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague from Ward 6 has really made me think a lot. So a lot of us focus on straws, plastic bags, but he really went in depth from his experience being at the grocery store. You know, I just want to share my experience the last couple of years. I tried to travel a little more, so I'm taking part in going to the ocean as much as I can, and I'm actually starting to reuse my bags when I go to certain stores. I have them in my truck or my car, so I'm trying to eliminate plastic bags. And then if I do go to a restaurant or a fast food place, I'm trying to eliminate the straw or the lid, and just drinking out of the cup. And obviously if I have to take it to go, I still try to just use the cup. So I think we have a lot to think about and move forward. I think we need to educate, and I think we as a city should really try to move forward with something in regards to educating our residents and maybe a potential ban. This is a problem throughout our whole country and our state. I'll support this resolution because I think it's moving in the right direction, but I do agree with my two colleagues that have already spoken that I think we need to start a grassroots effort, and that's why I kind of wanted to share my little experience in regards to me eliminating plastic. I know my sister lives in Arizona, and I know they have a ban on plastic straws, and she uses paper straws. So we've had that conversation before, and I would support that. So I think this is a good conversation. It's a good move in the right direction, but I do think two of my colleagues nailed it, that we need to continue the discussion. But I would support this if we had to pass it today, because I think it's moving in the right direction. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, Mr. Kamer, for thoughtful comments, personal experience, as well as just sort of checking out what's going on around the country. Appreciate that. Ms. Samples had my attention for a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some thoughts that may help a little bit for colleagues and council members. I do support this resolution. There are some sites that I think that council should probably refer to just for clarifications how serious plastic pollution is in this country, and all politics start local. So what we do here locally, I think, will send a message to the state and thereon. In the state of California, they have a plastic ban. You can get a plastic bag in the store, but you have to pay for that bag. So you notice a lot of people with the totes there. Everyone has a tote. When you're in Oregon, I just came back from Oregon, they do not have plastic bags. Everyone has tote bags, or one lady says, I'll just put the stuff in my cart, and she put it in her car in her little containers in the back of her car. Just, you know, for the numbers, when we think about it, it says in 1950, the world's population was 2.5 billion. 100.5 million tons was plastic. In 2016, our population was 7 billion, 320 million was tons of plastic. And they said by 2034, these numbers will double, if not triple, with tons of plastic. And I'm not sure if any of you have seen the videos where they show these wells that wash up on the shores and they're full of plastic. This plastic will last up to 450 years in the marine environment. So I think those are things we need to think about when we talk about locally, because everything starts local. There's a website that you all can refer to. It's called plasticpollutioncoalition.org. And I mean, it's just a wealth of information. And we have to think about how it's affecting our wildlife and how it's affecting the fish and how it's affecting us as human beings, because we're consuming these things that have plastic in them. And I know that with the new Green Deal, this is one of the things that AOC has been very adamant about. And I really support this resolution, and I hope that it moves forward, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Samples. Any other council members? The one thing I'd like to, oh, did you, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll just be very, very brief. I respect what Mr. Hoke said about, you know, about having a deep discussion on a ban, or, you know, charging maybe a tax, or, you know, working with business owners in terms of how to go about this. I agree with that. However, though, again, what's happened here from Columbus, they're sending us a message that we don't even have a right to talk about it, even, because they want to supersede home rule, and they want to basically take from local municipalities. And we have seen this over the last 10, 15 years, where they just continuously take from local governments and leave us with the fallout. And that's one of the bigger parts. I agree that we, you know, if this was actually saying, you know, we should ban and tax and so on and so forth, I agree with that we need to dive deeper into that particular issue. But in terms of, you know, sending a message to the Ohio House, this is why I checked off on this and said that add my name, because that's what we're doing here, is sending a message to Columbus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like to point out, that there are grocery stores who are demonstrating not only commitment, but an ability to reduce the amount of plastic in packaging, in straws, and in the grocery bags. Just recently, Aldi announced, Aldi, another major employer in our town, announced that they are going to dramatically transform their use of plastic, with a goal of, by 2025, 100% of all Aldi packaging, plastic packaging, reusable, recyclable, or compostable. So all of it will be very compatible with the environment. So if Aldi can stop the use of plastic bags, I think it's at least worth it for us to consider at some point some sort of legislation which would encourage other grocery chains and other people who disperse plastic bags to at least reduce, make it more difficult for people to get plastic bags, or maybe we probably should consider a ban. If Cuyahoga County passed legislation banning it, they went through a year process of debate. They considered the incentives, they ended up choosing the ban. I don't think the Cuyahoga County Council people would do something that would be in any way interfere with commerce in their county. At this point, I think we would just like to have the option of determining our own destiny here about what we do with it. It may be that some of the points that Mr. Hoke brought out would win out in a discussion. But at this point, what we're simply trying to do is ask the state to back off and allow us to handle our own affairs. I know that every elected person on this city council would not do something that would in any way hamper the grocery chains. And I know that the first instinct of all the council people will be to try to work with them on change. But sometimes change doesn't happen unless there is legislation, or it's a case of a carrot and some kind of reasonable stick that gets people's attention and creates focus or a priority for grocery stores in this area. Saying that, I'd just like to make sure that we still have that option. Let me ask you, Ellen, about this legislation. Now, it is not something that's going to pass this week, or is there a reason to pass this resolution quickly? Is there a reason?
I think that while it probably could wait, the House is looking to take action, the House committee is looking to take action on this potentially within the next week or two, so.
Okay, so there is some urgency.
Yes.
And it is a time now where we could help influence that decision.
Yes, again, I think the more local communities that stand up and say, you know, we believe this violates our home rule authority, the more pressure that puts on the state to reconsider whether or not they really want to
Okay, thank you.
start that battle.
Okay, any other comments before? I'm going to ask for a vote on this. Before I do, on this resolution, which again is a resolution against a state bill. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we would institute a ban here.
I just wanted to say one other thing. Thank you, Chairman. Actually, going off of what Councilman Kilby said about the plastic bags and the recycling facility. So part of what we're doing right now, this Recycle Right campaign, which probably has touched everyone's ward at this point, I'm not sure, but is we're trying to do this feet on the street education to let residents know the proper way to recycle right now. And some people didn't know that plastic bags were not supposed to be, or they would bag their recycling. They'd have perfectly clean, beautiful recycling, put it in a plastic bag and throw it in their recycling bin, and that's completely unusable. That whole bag just ends up at the landfill. But two things. One is that Jackie Riccuti from Keep Akron Beautiful is going to be reaching out to every council person to say, if you want to come along and actually participate or watch part of that campaign, you can see what they're doing to look in people's bins, put the tags on there. I'm sure you've gotten contacts from your residents, as we've gotten quite a bit of communication in the mayor's office about, you know, what we're doing and why. And also, I would be happy to try to arrange another visit to the MRF, which is where the recycling is processed, so that council people can see firsthand. It's absolutely eye-opening to see what comes to the recycling facility and how that affects what they're able to do with sorting and that sort of thing. So
thank you. That's something that we'll consider. Yeah, I mean, you reminded me of a very important point related to this debate, which is the last time we went through the MRF, all of us heard continuously that the plastic bags that went to the recycling center were a constant source of stoppage and inefficiency, that on a regular basis, the line, if you will, was always being stopped so that they could pull and causing shutdowns. So just in terms of efficiency for our recycling center, I think it's our responsibility to try to find ways, as we already are, in terms of the grassroots citizen education campaign, to reduce the amount of plastic bags that go to a recycle center. But it isn't only on the citizens. Of course it is. They do play a role in this, a huge role. But also the source of the plastic bags need to be in some way encouraged not to provide those as readily for the citizens. So saying that is, as city officials, I think we have a responsibility to protect and improve that recycle center. And I see this legislation that we're going to oppose, I see that as something that hampers our ability to do that. So with that, let me ask for a vote on this matter. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules and ask for a vote tonight? So moved. Do I have a second? Yeah, I'll second it. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed? Okay. You're voting no. Can I have a roll call?
Swirsky.
Yes?
Neal's not here. Kamer. Kilby. Hoke. Okay.
Okay, so, thank you. The measure passes, and we'll bring that to the floor tonight. Thank you. And I'll adjourn this meeting unless there's any other business. Thanks.